This meeting is being recorded.
All right.
Okay, well, good evening, and I want to personally welcome everyone for being here and being present today. I know how much work it takes to get off work, to go home, or to be home and find the Zoom link and whatnot. So I'm very thankful that all of you are here today. For those of you that may not know who I am, my name is Ms. Munoz, and I'm the 9th and 10th grade counselor. I created a PowerPoint to review some of the academic planning information that's correlated to the upcoming course requests that are going to be done sometime in the next couple of weeks with the rising sophomores. Please feel free to have or write down any questions as I'm presenting. I do love to do a Q&A at the very end of the presentation, and so that will help us just stay informed and connect with some of your inquiries. So as we begin, I'd like to remind our TABS community regarding the 4 tenets of TABS. And so when we were first founded with TABS, we wanted to find a mission that we felt best fit the culture of our school. And so we created these 4 tenets. And so the first one is called language. And we decided on that one because it's through language where we articulate thoughts and we communicate ideas. As an early college high school, students get a little overwhelmed with some of the vocabulary, some of the expectations that they are exposed to in an early college high school environment. And so I think that's a good little reminder just to remember that as an early college high school student and parent, it's important to just stay informed across the board of all of the different ins and outs that are correlated to the educational realm. The next thing we have is culture. Through culture, we celebrate our history, we cultivate our traditions. The third one is knowledge. We crave knowledge, we seek wisdom, we develop understanding. And part of today's presentation is to make sure that there is a clear understanding of what is expected when our students are trying to attain an associate's degree. I know that a lot of the information can be quite comprehensive and it could be a little overwhelming, but it's important for parents and students to be familiar with what the expectations are when they are attaining their associate's degree from TCC, which connects beautifully with responsibility. We relish responsibility, we seek to serve, we cherish our opportunity to serve. So as an early college high school community, we want to make sure that we are being very thorough with the expectations regarding not only high school graduation requirements, but also with associate degree requirements. You can go on to the next one, Ms. Asbury.
Trying to not let me. There we go.
Thank you. And so I've already done a little brief welcome. I do have door prizes, so I do encourage all of you to take some good notes. And at the end of the presentation, I will ask some questions and hopefully you will be able to unmute yourself and give me some prompt responses. And then I will send these little door prizes that I have in this bag here home with your students, with your center daughters, okay? So that way it can be a little bit more interactive. So the agenda for today is we're going to give an overview of the fall registration timeline. Then we're going to talk about TSI resources, A2I information, course requests and focus. We're also going to talk about the parent guardian support system, why it's important to keep all of you in the know. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with questions and answers and some door prizes. On to the next. So when we look at the fall registration timeline, it's important to know that we are up and running and we're already looking and planning what the next academic school year is going to look like in the upcoming fall semester. And so what Ms. Asbury and myself are doing this month is we're collaborating and we're working with students by reviewing and improving their course requests. And so it's a 2-part system where when we collaborate with the students, we present them with a physical paper copy of the course request. And then we also have to make sure that it matches what is in the system in focus for the next academic school year. And in just a second, I'm going to walk you through that process. That way you're familiar as far as to where to look for that information in focus. In April, we work on the TCC priority registration that will open up, and that date is slated for April 17th. And so this is going to be across the board, not only for the rising sophomores, but for all of the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And so this will give students the opportunity to register for the classes that they are able to enroll in for the upcoming fall semester. And so if you look here, you will see that there is a hyperlink in blue, which means that it's important for you to reference to familiarize yourself with the TSI prereqs that are needed for some of these college courses. And so if you can click on that for me, please.
It's up.
We can't see it.
What do you see right now?
I just see the PowerPoint.
Well, I do not know how to make it show. It's still on sharing my screen, and it's on. It went to it, but I don't know.
But it's
why
not
you guys
popular.
aren't- Yeah, I don't know why you're not seeing it.
It's okay. So parents, just to be aware, I'm also going to be emailing this presentation out. And so you will be getting this via your email, where you can also access the information that's listed here. But what it has here, it gives you an overview of what are the TSI scores that are needed to get into the following courses. And so I made a list of the courses where the students that are going to be rising sophomores will be taking if they qualify for these actual courses. And so we have the first course that's listed is Dual Credit English 3, which is equivalent to English 1301, which is equivalent to English Composition 1. And so I wrote down those 3 different course names because it kind of goes back to the tenets of TABS, where it's important to be very knowledgeable about the vocabulary that we're using on our campus. A lot of times the students may not understand that when they are taking a dual credit English 3 course, they may forget to reference the TCC course number or even the TCC course name. And so it's important for our students and our parents to get in the habit of understanding the different terminology that's being used on our campus to get a full and thorough understanding of what are some of those courses that the students are going to be taking. And so when we talk about dual credit English 3, the TSI requirement there is going to be for the students to make a 945 on one of the assessments. And so it's a multi-part assessment where the first portion of it, I believe, is the multiple choice. And then it's also correlated with an essay. And so the expectation on the essay, once they have already accomplished a 945, on the reading portion is for them to make at least a 5, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Asbury?
Yes.
And so the same expectation of that TSI requirement is expected for students as they are going into dual credit world history, which is equivalent to History 20 through 21, which is equivalent to World Civilizations 1. And so this is a course that's going to be provided to our rising sophomores. And our professor that we have on our campus is Mr. Crawford. And so again, this course is important for those students that have already fulfilled and passed the TSI ELAR requirements. The next course we have listed is Dual Credit Pre-Cal A, which is equivalent to Math 1314, which is equivalent to College Algebra. In order for students to have the opportunity to get into this class, it's important that they pass the TSI Math. And the TSI Math score that's needed to get into this class is going to be a 950. Next, we have Dual Credit Texas Government, which is equivalent to Government 2306, which is equivalent to Texas Government. And this course is, you need a TSI ELAR prerequisite as well. You need to be met in that. And that is what I referenced earlier as far as it being a 945 and a 5 on the essay. Okay. And so as you can see, for those students that are able to have the TSI met in ELAR and or math, the students will begin taking and being exposed to some of these college courses. Now, the second portion of this PowerPoint refers to the students that may not have had the opportunity to fulfill the TSI in ELAR. And so as a rising sophomore, we still want to give our students the opportunity to build a lot of the college and career readiness skills that they need to adhere to while they're at TABS. And so we have some college courses that will still be offered to our rising sophomores where a TSI prerequisite is not needed. And that gives those students the opportunity to still enroll in those classes. If you can look and see how the hyperlink in blue says good standing, it's absolutely crucial for both parents and for students to understand that currently they're already taking, like current freshmen are currently taking and are being exposed to a couple of college classes such as Kinesiology 1164, which is also known as dual credit life fitness, or dual credit college transition. And so as a freshman, those are the two courses that we offer, college classes that we offer to our students. And sometimes some of the students are not able to achieve a C or above. And if a student makes a D in one of those first college classes, then that's going to put them in, what is it called? Help me out. TCC, academic probation. Yes, TCC, academic probation. And so it's important to know that when a student makes a D, that's equivalent to a 1.0 GPA. And so what TCC reference as a student in TCC academic probation is when a student falls below a 2.0. And this hyperlink here will help get more of a clear understanding of what are the different levels of academic standings that TCC offers. And we want to make sure that the students understand that in order to continue thriving and doing well in their college classes, they have to continue remaining in good standing with TCC and making above a 2.0. And so I just wanted to make sure that I gave a little overview and a reminder regarding the academic standing with TCC, because if students do fall below a 2.0 and if students are placed on TCC academic probation, then it's going to sometimes hinder the registration process, and they will typically have to have a one-on-one academic intervention with Ms. Asbury, myself, and the parents, just to try to assess the situation a little bit better regarding why the student didn't do too well in the college class, and to see what type of resources or academic interventions can be provided with the student to help them do better within the next semester, because they will be able to enroll the subsequent semester. But if they continue to fall below a 2.0 after the second attempt, then the student will go into TCC academic suspension. And that is something that we want to avoid happening to our students, because the water gets a little bit more murky, in that the students will then have to meet with the TCC academic advisor to get an academic hold lifted. So if you ever have any questions, parents or students, always try to communicate with Ms. Asbury or myself regarding any missing assignments or any concerns with the professor, or needing, additional resources as far as tutoring, because we definitely want to make sure that all of our students are in good standing. So to discuss, to go over what are some of those courses as a rising sophomore that the students will take that do not have a TSI prereq, I'm going to go over those now. And then the first one listed is dual credit speech, which is equivalent to Speech 1311, which is equivalent to the course name of the Introduction to Speech Communication. And so the students will have one semester of that. Then the second semester will be offset with the dual credit humanities, which is equivalent to HUMA 1301, which is a college humanities course. And then the last one that we have listed here is dual credit arts, which is Arts 1301, equivalent to art appreciation. And so that is also mirrors the 1.0 high school credit that the students need for high school graduation requirements. I did list here in red that if a freshman completed dual credit art, then it says if you completed dual credit art your freshman year and still are not TSI, ELA met, you can enroll in either dual credit music appreciation or dual credit theater arts. And those are 2 additional fine art electives that we offer through TCC that students can potentially enroll in if they have an interest in fine arts. And then lastly, the last month, we have there, it says May fall 2023 schedules will be finalized. Please collaborate with myself and or Ms. Asbury regarding additional questions, concerns. TCC fall classes fill up fast, so it's imperative you stay informed, connected, and in the know. All inquiries are welcomed. And so we try to do as much as we can right now in the next coming months to make sure that your center daughter has the schedule that they need for the upcoming school year. However, we know that within the next 3 months or so, students are still taking TSI assessments and will still be meeting the requirements that are needed to take some of those TSI courses. And so we ask that you just continue collaborating not only with Mr. Waddell, who's in charge and oversees the TSI assessments, but also with the corresponding counselor. And so here are a couple of more links for you to review with your center daughter if they still haven't had the opportunity to pass the TSI. The first link that I have here is from Mr. Waddell, and it syncs you to our TABS webpage where it tells you exactly how to sign up and to register for the TSI. And then the second link is a great PDF that I found that helps you get more of a clear understanding of what it is that you need to study and review to do better in either the TSI ELAR or the TSI math. The next important item I wanted to review is what is A squared I? And so as we continue working with opportunities and resources, we have some students that want to take advantage of accelerating in math courses. And so this link will give you an overview of how to apply for those classes because the information is already online through the Fort Worth ISD Math Department. This is an opportunity for students to take classes such as geometry and algebra 2. And so it is free of charge. And so right now is the time for you to start planning if this is something that's going to be of interest to you because there is a deadline that you have to adhere to. Unfortunately, the link's not opening up, right, Ms. Asbury?
No, I clicked on it again to see, and it just acts like it's spinning.
Mm-hmm. And so as I'm working with students one-on-one and I see that, you know, they have a strong passion for the math curriculum, then that's where we start discussing this opportunity. If you have any questions, just let me know, or you can access this link in this PowerPoint when you get a chance. Okay, so this is where parents and students can find the course request information for the next upcoming school year in Focus. It's really easy. The students already know how to navigate Focus, to pull up their schedule, to pull up their grades, missing assignments, and whatnot. And so what I'm asking both parents and students to do is to go to Focus, click on Class Requests, which is going to be located on the left-hand side of the screen. And then I'm asking them to change the school year, which is located on the top right of the screen, to 2023-2024. And so those are just 2 easy steps, but I can't say how important it is to make sure that you convert from this year to next academic school year to get a full understanding of what are the course requests that are listed in Focus for the next upcoming school year. Make sure that you review the course requests, that you have an understanding of what are those courses that have already been in the system, because this is the courses that are going to roll over for the next academic school year. And it will follow the sequencing as far as what they need to adhere to as a prereq to ensure that they're also complying with their high school graduation requirements. And so at the bottom, there is a crosswalk that we also have on our TABS homepage that goes over each of the courses that the students need to take at every grade level. And so that can help you get a clear understanding of what are the courses that are needed previous to the courses that they need to take in the next upcoming school year and so forth. And Ms. Asbury will talk about what's going to be next in the next coming grades as far as 11th grade and 12th grade. Okay, so parent and guardians, please remember you're vital in supporting the ECH needs of our students. Please ensure you have reviewed your son and daughter's course request and focus. This is crucial. A lot of the information that you're going to be reviewing is going to be correlated to the information that was in the progression plan. And so this is a time where you need to ask questions. If you have any concerns, if there's something that you may not understand, we're here to support you. And as you get the hard copy, I'm going to ask if you could please sign just to see that you reviewed it with your son or daughter, and get that parent signature just to have that documentation that there was a conversation that was had between you and your son or your daughter. And feel free to email me if you have any, you want more of a thorough one-on-one where we can go over all of the different documents that we reviewed today. And then I've added my email address for you to have. And then I've also put the best times for us to meet. And so the students have an advisory period, and the best times for parents and students to meet with their counselors is on Monday and Tuesday, because on Wednesday and Thursdays, we're usually in there presenting to the students over different topics and guidance lessons. And so if you're able to get away from work or if you want to come in, that would be more of an ideal time. The second opportunity is I always ask for working lunches where you can come in, we can review whatever any inquiries that you have, and then you can stay, you can have lunch with your son or with your daughter. And then that way we're also not pulling the students away from their classes. And then of course, it's if you want to see me before or after school, you can just email me and we can set a one-on-one by appointment. Okay, so to wrap up, it's important for the students to know that they're going to be having to fill out a course request sheet for 8 different classes, and that they need to attain the parent's signature to return it to their advisory teacher. And all of this information is going to be presented to all of the students at the same time. I do have a little competition going on just to make sure that I am getting those course requests back. And so the sooner that you can review it and sign it, the sooner that we can put their name in a hat to see which advisory has the highest number of return course requests for an ice cream sandwich party. I will be emailing this PowerPoint where you have access to all the information. Remember to click on the blue hyperlinks with additional information. And then just a little reminder regarding our 4 tenets to always stay abreast of the language, the culture, the knowledge, and the responsibility needed for your rising sophomore year or junior year or senior year, whichever one adheres to you. So I'll take this time to do question and answers and then do door prizes.
And there will be a second part to this once she is finished here, so.
Okay, so I'm going to do my first door prize. Nobody going once, going twice on the questions and answers?
I have a question, Ms. Munoz.
Okay.
This is Robert's mom, Ms. Henry.
Yes, Ms. Henry.
There, I believe, was an opportunity for the students to take some courses this summer. Like, we're going to be here over the summer. Do we access that? We need to schedule a meeting with you, Mr. Waddell. Did you go over the process if we wanted them to be able to take a TCC class this summer?
So those courses are going to be for rising juniors, which are going to be under Ms. Asbury's caseload, and she's going to review that portion in just a second regarding how it's going to be affected and how that opportunity is going to be provided and how the information is going to be disseminated to the students so that we can make sure that they register in a timely way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's a good question. Any other questions?
I had a question about them registering for the TCC classes for fall. Is that on the student themselves, or will they be doing that during advisory, or when do they actually go ahead and register for those TCC classes?
So if you want to stop share, Miss Asbury, and that way you can, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. And so to answer your question for the students, we are still working on collaborating with TCC regarding the numbers to build the different courses that are going to be provided to the students in the upcoming fall year. And so when we go back to the timeline that I referenced, that's why it's so important for us to get these course requests, because what we're doing essentially is we're tallying the interest of the students to see what type of courses we need to build. Once we get an idea of how many courses we need to build from the collegiate side and on our master schedule, what's going to happen is then we're going to be collaborating with TCC to get those courses built with actual course numbers and course sections. And so once we have that information, then we're going to come back with the students with a schedule where you can actually see what those courses and section numbers are for them to register. So right now we're in the preliminary stage. We're not quite there yet, but hopefully in the next month or so, we will have that information. And the goal is to meet with the students through either an advisory class or through a cohort to make sure that we walk them through the process as far as what that registration is going to look like.
Okay.
And I'll touch on that a little bit at the end of my presentation as well. Okay, so on to the second part here. So this is going to be a little bit broader scope of information. She covered some of the underclassmen process. She talked about A²I, which is through the district. That is a high school class only. And that's predominantly for math, and it's an honors full credit. And the website will be on the link. I'm sorry that we were not able to kind of go back and forth between the PowerPoint and the links that she has, but they will be available. We will post this session along with the other sessions that we've had already this semester. They are on our TABS website on the front page down towards the bottom, and it's under parent webinar. She talked a little bit about TSI. We'll hit on that briefly, and then academic standing. The rest of it's going to be the academic expectations and registration process and course selection that I'm going to cover. So when your kids came to TABS and committed to what our program is threefold. We want students walking out of here with an associate's degree, with a certification, and the highest diploma in Texas. We're not okay just settling for a high school diploma that they could get anywhere. So we are very specific and intentional in our scheduling to try to accommodate all three of these so that after 4 years, they have accomplished what our program has to offer. So these are the items that we have: associate's degree. I'm going to hit on each one of these a little bit more in detail. And then if you have questions anytime, like I said, you can stop or you can do them in the chat and we will address those. So overall, associate's degree is going to be a 60 college credit hour. This is a screenshot of what's given to the students as we plan for their 4 years here. So if you look at the Associates of Arts, it aligns very closely with our high school requirements. There's not a lot of deviation from that. However, if you're looking at the Associates of Science, it's very specific. And you guys can see my screen, right, before I keep going. Do you see the associate's degree checklist on the screen?
Look like it's a partial showing.
Partial? Okay.
I think it's partial because you have maybe your little windows covering it. So if you move the windows, then you'll be able to see the whole course request.
Which I'm not sure which window you're referring to. I've got both of them in the far or top corners as far as I can get them. Is that better?
Yes, for
Okay.
me.
Okay, so I'll do it where it's not a full screen, so maybe that'll help condense a little bit. So this checklist is given to students as we're walking through the process, and the arts, like I said, is way more flexible as far as the electives go. But we kind of mapped out what that looks like, so we can kind of see how that spread over the 4-year process. TSI is a big part of that. We cannot move forward until TSI English is met, and many of the classes, math is one, if you're on the Associates of Arts, that you have a little bit more time to get. If you're on the Associates of Science, the math is going to be critical to try to get preferably by the end of sophomore year, because the Associates of Science only allows for higher level maths and sciences that require TSI. So that is very dependent on when the student passes one or both of the TSI requirements. Associates are associate's degree. One is not better than the other. So I don't want any student to feel inferior if they're getting Associates of Arts versus an Associates of Science. It is totally up to their preference and their strengths. If they are strong in math and science and they want to pursue an Associates of Science, that's great. But ultimately, it's still an associate's degree. And anytime you walk out of high school with an associate's of any kind, it's a huge accomplishment. So this is an overview that we give to them that we can kind of monitor. We meet with them every year to kind of see where they're at with that process. The second part or expectation is going to be the certification. So we offer 4 tracks, and this shouldn't be new. Most of you guys have probably already heard this. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on here, but I do want to clarify, because sometimes there's confusion, that the certification tracks are high school, and it does not impact the associate's degree. It's not like, oh, I'm going to get a certificate, so I can't get an associate's degree. That's not how we work. So we expect them to get both. The only one that has college classes associated with the pathway is central sterile processing. Those are all going to be college level classes that senior year, but all the rest of them are going to be high school classes. So as far as TSI is concerned, getting a certification is not going to hinder them from getting any kind of certification. Anybody can get that. And we do map our students out to have a certification. So all of our freshmen start off with the same principles classes. Our 10th graders start off with the same next 10th grade level course, human body systems. And then it's not until junior year, as they're signing up for classes, that they really start to commit. Do they want to do either pharmacy tech, patient care, or central sterile processing? Because that requires a certain junior level class called health science. If they are looking to do a biomedical lab assistant, which we now call biomedical technology, that one's going to require medical intervention. So it's a different junior level class. However, if they're still not 100% sure and they want to buy themselves a little bit more time, if there's space in their schedule, they can always take both medical intervention and health science, and then make that final decision senior year as far as what certification they're going to go for. But the expectation is that they will sit for that certification. Fort Worth ISD pays for that. And then they do have to pass the exam, not just the class, to get certified in that area. They don't have to pass the exam to get credit for the class, but they do to be certified. All right, the last piece of the puzzle is just the high school diploma. Currently, we expect all of our students to get the highest diploma, which is still 26 credits, but it's called Distinguished Level of Achievement. And with that, it is required to have at least 1 endorsement by the state of Texas. However, we plan on every student trying to get all 4 of those endorsements to make them the most marketable that they can. So we've outlined what those options look like here at TABS, because it may look different at other campuses. But based on what we offer, it's an outline of how to get those endorsements and then how the 26 align. I will tell you that for the most part, TABS students typically graduate well above 26 credits. We are not an early graduation program. We are a 4-year program. So if a student has accelerated in 8th grade and they're taking English and algebra and biology or whatever their school offered, the expectation is that then they continue at the highest level possible through senior year. That's the whole point of accelerating. It's not to finish by junior year and then slack off senior year. That's not what we're about. We really want to prep them for college. So we want to make sure that they're going into the college experience very well educated, informed, and have the most well-rounded education that we can provide. On this screen, you should be looking at the course sequence. So as I was registering with the current 10th graders, upcoming juniors, because they're going to be on my caseload next year, these are kind of the sequences of each class, especially our cores and our CTE. So you can kind of see there, I tried to put in information if it has to do with TSI or if it does not. But students have several pathways that they can go. It just depends on their TSI. It also depends on if they're on track or ahead, how far they're going to get. So that's something that you guys can look at later. This is an example, an example of a course selection sheet that I do with the 10th grade. It is a back and front sheet. I don't require parent signature on it. They can have a conversation with you about their courses. You can meet with me and set up that individually. We can do that. But for the upperclassmen, we go over this. They look at their classes of what they have next and what they need. I review it. We put it in focus. We talk about summer intentions. And so I've got it outlined here. There's 3 different things students can take starting their junior year, which we consider that after their 10th grade year summer. One is Fort Worth ISD courses. That's going to be if they had failed a class, that's a high school class, like an Algebra 2. They may have to do regular high school summer school to get that credit back. That trumps any other summer program. They've got to get their high school diploma first. So if they end up failing a high school class, that's going to take precedent of getting that credit recovered. The other is A²I, which for most students is either going to be an honors geometry or an honors algebra 2. That's for someone who's trying to get a little bit further in their math by the time they graduate. If they maybe started out taking algebra 1 in freshman year and they want to get up to maybe calculus or Cal 2 by the time they graduate. TCC, here's the term. So how we look at summer registration, I'm going to go to that in a little bit. That's my last slide. But we look at that. They can take 2 classes per term as long as it doesn't exceed 6 credit hours. So if a student's taking a math or they're taking a science, there is a chance that that's all they can take because the second part of math pre-cal is 4 credits of college credit. So that's only 1 per term. So we kind of take a look at that. They do have to meet with me. That is something I have to approve. And I'll tell you why here in just a little bit. So overall with TCC registration, there are a few facts that you need to be aware of that we tell our students. The first one is fall registration is currently open if they don't run behind on April 17th. Those are for fall classes. Your question earlier about how does a student know how they do that? What's the process? So by the time that April 17th rolls around, the goal is that Fort Worth ISD has already got their schedule in place. And so a student accesses their focus schedule, it will have the course number and the section number that they need to register for in focus. You can see it, they can see it. Then they'll use their My TCC track, which is through TCC, and they will plug in the registration. We'll go over the registration process with them. This link right here has a link to how to register. It's a step-by-step. I also go over that. Ms. Munoz goes over that with them in class. It is a self-registration process. So they are expected to register when we tell them to. If for some reason they do not do that, then it puts them at risk of not getting into that course. We don't have the ability to hold seats for students on the TCC side. We don't have ability to dictate whether they keep a class. So sometimes TCC will cancel something that we already had expected to be offered. That throws wrenches kind of in the schedule. So there's always this fluctuation and subject to change kind of situation that's out of our control. But the student will see their schedule in period form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with the courses that match for TCC that they're supposed to register for. We will give them that information on how to register. It is up to the student to register. They can come see us for questions. We walk them through it, and there's step-by-step guides on TCC's website, and this link right here is one of them. The biggest key is that students sometimes do not look at what's on their focus schedule and it doesn't match. If they sign up for a class that's the wrong section, it does not match their focus schedule, then Ms. Munoz and I have to come back to them and say, hey, this is where you register. You can't register for that class that you have currently because it conflicts with the high school class. TCC does not see our schedule. They don't know that there's a conflict. They only know when there's a conflict of dual credit courses. So it's imperative that they go by what's in focus. And then once they have registered, textbooks are provided, and they pick those up like usual from Mr. Anderson. Summer throws a little bit more complication into things because Ms. Munoz and I are not on contract throughout the summer. So like I said earlier, they're split into 2 terms, TCC. That registration is supposed to open up March 27th. The view only should be open soon. I looked again today. It's currently not open to just view anything yet. So I think they're running a little bit behind. But for summer courses, for TCC summer courses, only students who have completed their 10th grade school year are eligible to start taking dual credit TCC classes. It has to be approved by me. And one reason for that is I have to make sure, if you look a couple of bullet points down, that they can maintain 8 courses their junior year and a minimum of 6 their senior year. So they're not taking classes just to overload their TCC transcript, because TCC does not want them graduating with a ton of elective credits that they may or may not be able to use once they finish our program. So we don't look at it as, oh, you need to stay busy, so let's take a class. We take it because we either need to do that in order to maintain the 8 and 6 split for the next 2 years, or it's something that maybe they've gotten behind in, maybe they were late with TSI and they're trying to do something with that in the summer. So that has to be approved. The holds, going back to the slide with the fall registration, holds refer to multiple things. On TCC side, they have to be cleared in order to register. That's something the student has to take care of. So if they have library books that are overdue, they can't register. If they drive and got a parking ticket in the parking garage or wherever they park, they can't do that until it's paid. For the underclassmen, and I believe our current kids right now, there's a not anymore video that TCC requires them to watch. They've got to have that documented that it's done. Bacterial meningitis shot has to be up to date. Any one of these things right there will keep a student from registering. We cannot override that. So the last thing, which Ms. Munoz had already referred to, is the academic standing. If a student's in academic suspension, they can't register. It's going to be blocked. They have to go see a TCC advisor to lift that hold before they can actually register for classes. So there are things on the student side that they have to be responsible to know if they are up to date and ready and clear for those holds. Otherwise, when they go to put the classes in, it will not let them do it. And that stuff has to be taken care of. So we try to work very closely with the students on that, on what to do if they're unfamiliar with the process. So all holds have to be removed, starting with the summer registration. If they're not taking summer classes, they need to be removed by the April 17th deadline for the fall registration. There are 2 terms in the summer. Both of those are 5-week terms. Each course lasts about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and that's going to be a Monday through Thursday. They don't have classes on Friday. So one day is like one full semester a week. It moves fast. The student needs to be very focused on what they're doing, and really make sure that they are staying up with the work each night, not just being in class. So it moves quickly. For that reason, I don't typically recommend dual credit math classes. There can be a few exemptions to that. I do look at it as an individual basis. Some students can handle it, but not a lot. So based on how they're doing, their grades, their history of math credits, we look at all of those to see if that's the best route to go. It's not something you want to skip through with college algebra and pre-cal and get bare minimum, because those are the foundational courses to the rest of the math and sciences that they would be taking, especially if they're doing associates of science. I already talked about high school, trumping that one. Transportation's on your own. So for that reason, some students do want to do an online class. Some want to take something closer to their campus that they live next to or they're close to. That's fine. We do allow that in the summer. However, they can't register for that themselves. They have to come through me. So they decide which one it is. They can look at the professors. They can set the time. Summer school courses run in the mornings, usually like an 8 to 10. Then there's one that's like 10:30 to 12 something. And then there's like a 1 to 3. And then there's usually one that's maybe a little bit later, like a 3:30 to 5 or something, roughly in that kind of range. So in the summer, there's way more flexibility because it revolves around their schedule and their ability to get there. So with that, they get to choose where they want to take the class and what time. So they're kind of masters of their own schedule for summer. As long as it's an approved course by me, the rest of that has some flexibility. So transportation is not provided by us, but you guys have to do that. The drops, because we are not on campus as a contact person during the summer. If something goes wrong and that student needs to drop that class, they have to be able to do that on their own. And that's something that I tell them that's as part of the process when they meet with me for approval. We go through all of this stuff so that they know exactly what they're getting into with the summer class. And then textbooks currently are still being provided as part of Fort Worth ISD's initiative and tuition, but they do have to be responsible to get those in May before everybody leaves for summer. So if they have a term 2 that doesn't start until July and they didn't get their textbooks for that or their codes or anything that they needed for the class, nobody's on campus to get that for them. So it causes a problem there. So planning ahead is key. And then just making sure they're communicating upfront with me on that as we plan. So quick little just reminder, when it comes to the TCC diploma, that's a separate process than a high school diploma. 2.0 is what's considered academic good standing, the required 60 credit hours. Students, if I have any senior parents on tonight and they're eligible for their associate's degree, I've turned those names, a list of names to see who's eligible, verify their credits to TCC records department, and students should be through their TCC email, be receiving that information through a graduation interest form that has to be completed. Typically the end of March is when they pick up their cap and gown from TCC. That is a free cap and gown from TCC. It's part of what Fort Worth ISD pays for. And then there's a link that I've included that you can stay current on anything that's happening on the TCC side. We have zero control of that. We don't always get communicated with on my end. They directly communicate through their TCC email to the student. But they do keep that website pretty accurate and up to date. And then once all the degree audits are verified, which happens after the ceremony, diplomas are sent to the address that they have on file, and they're mailed with a tracking device and then make sure that you get it. Okay. All right. So I'll open it up for questions. Let's see. I see some in the chat. So when will students register for TCC classes at school, or do they do that on their own? So we do help them and assist. We tell them it's time to register, and then we tell them the process. They go ahead and do that. If they have any issue, they let us know. If they haven't registered in a certain amount of time, Ms. Munoz and I are constantly trying to track them down and make sure they get in, because once those seats are taken, they're taken. And we have to look at how it fits in their schedule. So it is self-registration with assistance if they need it, but they are trained on how to do that. When will you find out if your child needs summer school? For high school, summer school, that would probably be looking at the very end of the semester, because we do year-long averages in Fort Worth ISD. So if your child failed something in the fall, you can tentatively schedule that for Fort Worth ISD High School summer school, but if they make high enough the second semester to average for a 70-year long, they will end up recovering it. So I say at this point, you're checking grades and they failed something in the fall, I'd go ahead and plan on that course probably being a summer school course for Fort Worth ISD. They have not given us any information yet on the times or necessarily what that looks like for registration yet. So we're on hold, but we'll send that out as soon as we get it. Let's see, TCC registration. Yes, summer registration is only for rising juniors and rising seniors, not for rising sophomores. All right, I think that is all the questions that I see in the chat. Please make sure that you've done your Google form. Anyone else have any questions they want to unmute for?
Yeah, I have a question about the math requirements just for graduation, I guess. So like if your student starts in 9th grade at algebra instead of geometry, how is, and you know, the hope is that maybe they take A squared I or whatever and get the geometry, but if they, and get kind of with everybody else, but if they don't, what ramifications does that have?
So if they say that question one more time, if they took algebra in 9th grade?
Right. So I guess my students in algebra for 9th grade, but I guess most students are already in geometry for 9th grade. So do they have to get geometry in like through A squared I or something over this summer? If they don't, what will they be off for graduation, you know, down the road or what?
No, they don't have to do A squared I for geometry. So students, especially ones who need more time with math, should take it during the school year. They will end up with 4 credits of math, which is what's required for the high school state of Texas diploma. So they would get to either college algebra their senior year, an AP pre-cal, or something called AQR for their 4th math credit. And they would just finish with 4 math credits. If a student was wanting to do higher level math and was a strong student, because A squared I is not a guaranteed credit. So they do about 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks in the summer. And they do a placement test at the beginning. If you don't qualify to take A squared I in the summer based on that placement test, you don't get to stay. Like they do kind of a screening process for their programs because it's so fast and because it's a full year credit. So it can be all or nothing. And I've had students who have sat through an A squared I course, got in past the placement test, but didn't pass the class and didn't get any credit. So if a student needs more time with math, does not make sense to do an A squared I accelerated program this summer. If a student gets through geometry like sophomore year, they're on track. Like that's not off track. They just are going to max out at 4 math credits, whereas other students who may have had it in 8th grade or may have done the acceleration program in the summer may finish with 5. That's the only difference.
Will it affect their ability to get an Associates of Science versus an Associates of Arts?
Yes.
Okay. So they won't be able to if they started algebra and just go up that way.
Most likely that's correct, because college algebra is the first math for dual credit, and it's a prerequisite for any of the sciences that they would be taking. Except for biology. So if they just did 3 high school math credits, then senior year would be the first time that they're taking a college math, which again, that's fine. It's okay. But they're just not going to get those other elective credits that are required for the Associates of Science.
Okay.
But they're good for Associates of Arts. And let me also be very clear, like you do not have to major in Associates of Science to go on to a 4-year university and then major in science. So
right.
It's okay. You got to go with the strength of what the student, where they're at. But yeah, they can still get an associate's degree with that track where they're taking their senior level math as a dual credit math.
Okay.
Now, I tell the students, I started with the 10th grade this year, and I let them know, like, if that's their case scenario, if they're not getting their dual credit math or their dual credit science till senior year, if that's the very first time that they've ever had a dual credit level of math or science, I'm going to make sure that they have a backup math or science in their schedule, just in case something goes wrong with that. I don't want to jeopardize their high school graduation because those classes are difficult. And if they're seeing it for the first time senior year, I don't want that to get them behind and off track to graduate in May. So if their schedule allows, they will have a double either math or science to kind of back that up if it's possible. So that's my rule. That's not a fourth ISD rule, just because we've had students struggle in those dual credit classes senior year, and that backup is coming handy. So we've been able to graduate everybody on time so far.
Okay, so like if they do start in 9th grade at geometry, what is the highest level of math they end up with by senior year then?
So I don't know if you can see my screen or not, but the sequence that's going to be something you want to reference. If they just do high school classes during the year with no summer, and they start in Algebra 1 in 8th grade, then they should be able to get up to at least the calculus level their senior year.
And that's calculus ISD, not calculus TCC.
No, it depends. If they do dual credit math, college algebra, and pre-cal junior year, they can get to dual credit Cal 1 and dual credit Cal 2, really, if they take a full year of math that way, senior year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if
Any
they
other
have
questions?
a math like Rick. No, but I really like those questions that parent was asking for one of my freshman students. Can you please tell me who's your son or daughter, or what your name is, so we can set up a meeting?
You mean the one about the math that I asked?
Yes.
It's Leo Morton, 9th grade.
Okay. Well, just shoot me an email, and then you and I can come in and we can meet with Leo, and then that way there's a clear understanding about the different resources and the different potential pathways that he could take.
Hi, Miss Asbury or Miss Munoz. Okay, it's Jordan Alvarez. Okay, y'all are both probably know me, but I just had a question. How would I know if I needed to take summer classes, like TCC summer classes? I'm pretty sure I don't, but like, how would I know if I needed to take them?
Well, we had a meeting back in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And did your course request and your 4-year plan. So if you can't find the photo that you took or the hard copy that you took of that meeting, just come in and I'll show you what we had. And if there's something different we need to adjust, it's time to do it.
Okay, I'll come tomorrow in the morning. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? ¿Algunas preguntas en español? No? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do the door prizes because I know that people are ready to wrap it up.
Yep.
So this is the first one. Can you guys see this? This is one of my favorite ones. It comes from TCC, and it holds your cell phone on your desk. So it's like a nice little cell phone holder